How's it going everyone? My name's Luke and welcome back to SwitchStars. So I've talked a lot on the channel about the Switch eShop scammers, which include the likes of Midnight Works, VG Games and Go Game Console Publisher. And about a year and a half ago I released a video on them titled The Nintendo Switch eShop Scam Ring, where I outed these publishers. But unfortunately, things have escalated considerably with new names popping up every few months. Now I recently saw an IGN article discussing the topic of scammers on the eShop, and a video from a YouTuber called Dead Domain which covered subjects like asset flips, delves into some of the scam game titles and talks about the publishers themselves, subject matter that I've previously discussed at length on the channel, and Dead Domain also delved a little into the links between these developers, speculating that there might be a connection, something that I've also previously done. A while back I released a video on Switch publishers to avoid, and for this video I had originally planned on just putting out an updated version of that list. However, as I got to doing the research for this one and new information came to light, the concept of this video developed into something entirely different. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to divulge everything that I've discovered about all of the scam game publishers that I've identified and show you just how extensive their reach is by detailing how I believe they're all connected as I present to you all the scam game publisher Web of Deceit. So let's kick things off with a bit of a disclaimer, because we all know these guys would just jump at the chance to screw me in the arsehole at the first opportunity, but I'll start by saying that all of the observations within this video are made as statements of my own opinions based on the evidence that I've gathered and should therefore not be taken as fact. Owing to this, some of the information may also be inaccurate and some speculation will be made, so please form your own opinions on what I'm about to say. On the subject of scam games, this is a blanket term that I myself have created to describe the specific type of low quality games released by these publishers whose eShop listings contain fake screenshots and descriptions which don't portray an accurate representation of the games themselves. The definition of a scam is a dishonest plan for making money or getting an advantage, especially one that involves tricking people, or alternatively, to trick someone into giving you money or giving you some advantage in a dishonest and often illegal way. And considering most of these games are being sold under false pretenses with regards to both the games and publishers themselves, and the games are clearly breaking basic consumer right laws, I felt that scam games was a pretty apt term to define them. That being said, I will admit to not having tested all of the games from these publishers, so I therefore cannot claim that every game they publish is a scam game, and some of the publishers I'm about to mention are merely present due to the links connecting them back to Midnight Works and the other companies, but they're not necessarily affiliated with them directly. With that said and out of the way though, let's kick things off with the OG daddies themselves, Midnight Works, a name that you're all no doubt familiar with if you've been watching the channel for a while, and I'll let it be known that I've been made aware of some very disturbing and less than legal details about the inner workings of this company, which I can't reveal just yet, but what I will say is that you only need to look at the Glassdoor reviews left by some of their ex-employees to see that, despite the happy smiling Facebook persona, there's clearly something sinister lurking just beneath the surface, so stay tuned for a potential upcoming video which provides a little insight into what kind of disgusting monsters they really are. As detailed on the Midnight Works official website though, the company was formed in 2015 when Roman Gaina and Catalin Tite teamed up to form a small development team and would later be joined by Victor Bivol. They would go on to mass produce mobile apps, having a big success story with Hashiria Drifter in 2019 and make the jump to consoles and PC in 2020. But in 2022 they caught my attention with the Cop Car Police Simulator chase game on Nintendo Switch, which still remains available to buy to this day. The company name is Midnight Works SRL and is registered in both Moldova and Romania, having headquarters based in both of these locations, but the main headquarters is in Moldova, and the turnover for the company appears to be split equally between both locations. Now, following my identification of them, I then noticed several other publishers operating similar tactics of publishing games with fake screenshots and descriptions, and one of my earliest videos on them identified the first connections between these companies. I noted that INSTAMARKETINGANDGAME SRL was the company name of a website called InstaShop, a subsidiary of Midnight Works, which was originally listed as a holding company on the website but has since been removed. But this company is also headed by Roman Gaina. There was also VG Games, or Virtual Global Games, which operated under the name West Connection Limited on the US eShop, and although the principal CEO is listed as Alexei Negru, I have it on good authority from several ex-employees that they operate from within the same office space as Midnight Works. Finally, there was GameToTop Corp, a company up until recently I only speculated had ties to Midnight Works, but it turns out is also registered to Roman Gaina, but not in Moldova or Romania like most of these companies are. No, this one is registered in Gibraltar using a British overseas postal code. And this is something interesting to point out, because several of these companies have been registered in overseas locations, and I'm led to believe that several have been established using names of family members or even random employees of the companies. Getting back to the web though, the unveiling of the eShop scam ring video I published resulted in a reaction from Midnight Works & Co., the fallout of which resulted in them all abandoning their original publishing names for new ones. Coincidentally, Midnight Works was also banned from the PlayStation Store, which I believe was actually due to another content creator publishing a video about the VR games, but this provoked a direct attack on my channel from Midnight Works, who sent their employees to do the dirty work, instructing them all via a private messaging group to make false copyright strikes against my channel from their own personal mobiles and home computers. Thankfully, this plan quickly fell apart and nothing seemed to come of it, but as you'll soon see, Midnight Works are once again back on PlayStation under new publishing names. Amongst the new names that they've adopted though, we have Erlano, under which we have several games previously published by Midnight Works, and the full company name is Erlano BV, with BV being the Dutch and Belgian version of LLC, though unfortunately I couldn't identify a registered company profile for them outside of possibly this UK based one, which oddly went from selling fruit and veg to performing IT service activities. But many of the games once published by Midnight Works on Switch are now published by Erlano. We then have Testagamercreations, which is the new name for both VG Games and West Connection Limited, and again, several of the previous games now fall under this publishing name, with the company Testagamercreations Limited also registered in the UK, but the director of the company, Alexei Rudy, being of Romanian nationality. We also have GameToTop.cc, which if you couldn't tell is just GameToTop Corp renamed and is still run as GameToTop Corp out of Gibraltar, and finally PublishMe. Previously known as INSTAMARKETINGANDGAME, this marks the first interesting development in my research, as I originally presumed that they had utilised PublishMe Agency, a Turkish marketing agency who apparently partnered with Activision for Call of Duty Mobile. But no, there is also a PublishMe Agency Limited registered in Hong Kong, and would it surprise you to find out that this was registered by one Christina Verijan? That's right. The same Christina Verijan and HR Pawn of Midnight Works who directed the company's employees to launch their attack on my channel. And as you'll soon see, this won't be the last example of mimicry or straight up hijacking of publishing names committed by Midnight Works, possibly in an attempt to hide their tracks. Now aside from these four, there are also a number of additional publishing names that Midnight Works now operate under. First, we have Desvault Games, otherwise known as Desvault App and IDEI SRL. located in Romania and registered under one Alexandru Gancikovski, and the ties here aren't immediately apparent, but dig a little deeper and you'll discover that Alexandru here is also the administrator of Midnight Cosmetico SRL, otherwise known as Midnight Cosmetics, and just like InstaShop, this is another subsidiary of Midnight Works which originally appeared on the webpage but was subsequently removed. Then we have Success Games, an offshoot of VG Games from what I've been told, and this one is registered in Moldova, but its director is Victor Bivol, one of the founding forefathers of Midnight Works. Following this, we have VRC Forge Studios, another company registered in the UK to Romanian national Grigor Stanciu. And the ties between Midnight Works and this company are a little tenuous at best, with the only link being that one of the games is published by Midnight Games on Steam. But what's a little odd about this one is that the address the company is registered to is a house in Hornchurch in England, and there's another company registered here that's called Ruscom Plus Limited, with another Romanian national whose nature of business is categorised as construction of domestic buildings, but this company was previously registered as a fruit and vegetable growing company in Moldova. Next, we have Go Game Console Publisher, again registered at an address in the UK to Victor Antosi, and this one was a bit of a challenge to track down, but it just so happens that a Victor Irina Antosi dropped a like on several of Midnight Works' Facebook posts, which could just be a happy coincidence, but I do have my doubts about that one. We then have 404 Games, who publish on both the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, a company headed by a guy called Stefan Siugurianu, who according to my sources is an ex-employee of Midnight Works. Finally, the latest member of the Midnight Works team is Great Escape Games Publishing, a company with no registered company profile, but the games list Midnight Works as both the developer and publisher on Steam. So that about wraps up Midnight Works for now, but we'll get back to them shortly. But for now, let's turn our gaze towards Demenci Games, another scam game publisher, and one that's almost as deeply seeded as its competitor. And you heard that right, because from what I've heard, Demenci Games may not actually be affiliated with Midnight Works at all, and may in fact be in direct competition with them, with unfounded rumours of Midnight Works actually attempting to stop them. At the core of this bunch though is Demenci Games themselves, with Georgi Chetruska sitting as the company's director, whilst Dumitru Chetruska acts as CEO for the development studio, and it's worth noting that Demenci also run a page on the Unity Asset Store. Not satisfied with just one publishing company though, Dumitru has also established Cool Devs, sitting as the primary shareholder, but placing Ion Vasilta as its administrator. And Ion has previously worked at both Midnight Works and Demenci Games, but is now working at Chetruska Softworks, which brings us to our first link to PlayStation, as there were originally a ton of games published by this company on PlayStation, which have all mysteriously vanished. Chetruska Softworks is also registered to Dumitru Chetruska though. We also have Berlia Game Studios, who also published under Chetruska Softworks on PlayStation, and upcoming publisher Lure, whose Silent Forest Deadly Night horror game was also set to be published by Chetruska Softworks on PlayStation. Finally, we have Eclipse Interactive, and this is a bit of a weird one, as one of the games was originally published by Chetruska Softworks on PlayStation, but on tinfoil.io was listed as being developed by Georgi Bragari, a current employee of Midnight Works. Now, the rabbit hole runs a little deeper when we start to look at the titles these companies have with the PlayStation Store, as Midnight Works are potentially linked to at least 8 different names on there, including Midnight Games SRL, Desvol App and IDEI, Testagamercreations, Go Game Console Publisher, Play Games Limited, 404 Games Limited, GBT UI Solutions SRL and Software Technologies SRL 2025. Play Games Limited is registered in London and the company director is listed as Irina Pavlicino, a current employee at Midnight Works who can be seen in images on both their official Facebook page and Instagram, where she stands proudly next to fan favourite Christina Verijan. Software Technologies SRL exists on PlayStation both with and without the 2025 suffix and have previously published several games on the platform which were published by Success Games on the Nintendo Switch, including the Warzone Chronicles games that I've previously covered on the channel. And like most of the other companies in this list, GBT UI Solutions is also registered to Roman Gaina. Demenci Games has been linked to a publisher called Maxim Vysochansky trading as Indie Games 3000 on PlayStation, with several of Demenci's games published by this company. And it may just be another happy coincidence, but Maxim Vysochansky may in fact be Maxim Vysochansky, spelled slightly differently, but the founder of Simula Maker, a company that has apparently been dissolved but still actually publishes games on the Nintendo Switch. These Simula Maker games are also published on PlayStation but under the publishing name Tetiana Vysochanska, and it just so happens that someone called Tanya Vysochanska received a positive recommendation from Maxim Vysochansky on LinkedIn. But Tanya has since gone on to found her own publishing company called Violatra and has begun publishing on PlayStation. But again, all of this could just be a happy coincidence. An extremely fucking unlikely happy coincidence, but a happy coincidence nonetheless. Finally, publisher Tashlik on the Switch is also responsible for games which have been published by both Maxim Vysochansky and Tetiana Vysochanska on PlayStation. Now there are a few outliers in the mix that I think are worth a mention before we get onto the real smoking guns with this one, but both Yellow Ink and Global Game Studio are two companies that I really struggle to find anything about, though the second of the two may tie into what I'm about to get onto. Finally, there are also a couple of companies who don't appear to be affiliated with Midnight Works but who release equally as scammy titles, and these are Megami or Me Game and CGI Labs, both producing trashy shovelware and low quality asset flips on the Switch. So now let's get on to the real meat then. Because as I alluded to earlier, there were several occasions whilst conducting this research that I encountered publishing names which appeared to be already established, and PublishMe may just have been a coincidence, but the following two publishers were most certainly not. Firstly, we have VR Kiwi, a company already established on the PlayStation and Steam and known for publishing games like Gravedigger, Lo-Fi Katana and Stilt, whilst the copycat publisher appears as VR Kiwi Games on Switch. Once the games are downloaded, the game data just shows them as VR Kiwi, indicating a discrepancy between what's listed on the eShop and the publishing name that the games are actually registered under, and it was this one small detail that played a key role in confirming that this mimicking of publishing names is no happy coincidence. The second publisher, whose name appears to have been stolen, is 16-bit. And again, the eShop just lists these games as being published under 16-bit, but after downloading the game and checking the publishing name listed there, I discovered that 16-bit Nights SRL had been used to register the games, and 16-bit Nights SRL is a well-established indie game publisher on Steam. After reaching out to both VR Kiwi and 16-bit Nights SRL, they both confirmed that neither of them had published any of these games. But the real revelation here came when looking into the PlayStation published equivalents for 16-bit, where I discovered that all of the games were in fact published by GameToTop Corporation Limited. a company registered to Roman Gaina. In addition to these two companies, there are 3 others who appear to have been stolen, though I haven't yet managed to confirm with all of them whether or not they have published the games that I identified. The first of these being Goose Game Limited, a company which was apparently dissolved back in December of last year, yet have gone on to publish Asylum of the Forsaken on Steam and have a bunch of games announced for release on PlayStation. We also have Grizzly Games, another company which was dissolved back in 2020 and who are responsible for developing and publishing the highly rated Thronefall, but have since gone on to list a ton of games on PlayStation, including Ambulance Simulator 911 Emergency, which rather suspiciously is published under Grizzly Games Limited 2025, with the 2025 suffix being suspiciously similar to that used by Software Technologies SRL. Then there's eSail Limited, the publisher and developer behind a successful sailing simulator game, yet there are now listings for a bunch of scam games on PlayStation from them. A point to note with this one though, is that the real eSail uses a lowercase e in the name, whilst the copycat uses all capitals, and it appears as though they've attempted to snag publishing rights on PlayStation for the viral Steam game Web Fishing, but failing this, have plans to release their own version titled Web Fishing Sim. eSail have since responded to an email that I sent them in which they confirmed that they hadn't actually published any of these games and had in fact got Sony to take them down along with a copycat website. But further to this, they also informed me that Midnight Works actually contacted them back in 2023 asking to publish their games and sending them a draft contract, to which they politely declined. So just another coincidence that their name is now being used by a random scammer? Make of that what you will. Similarly, publisher Multiversal Me on Nintendo Switch has had their games published on PlayStation by Go Game Console Publisher Limited, and I've also reached out to Multiversal Me to confirm whether or not they're actually responsible for publishing these titles, but I've yet to receive a response from them. So that, my friends, is the scam game Web of Deception, a detailed look into the ties that bind these companies, and an exposition of who they're run by and where they're supposedly run from. Like I said though, the information presented in this video has been formed from my own observations based on everything I've discovered, and the evidence gathered is freely available to all if you know where to look for it. But given everything that's been said, it's hard not to speculate about what might be going on here. Why are so many publishing companies being operated by so few, despite all of them publishing the same types of games being developed by the same teams, and contrary to what was speculated by Dead Domain, these are not port houses. They're not just porting games from other developers, and I have it on good authority that they are actually developing these games in-house. Why are these publishing companies being registered in multiple countries to multiple people who are more often than not directly associated with the original company? And why are they now using existing publishing names without the original publishers being made aware of this? Why are the companies still publishing and selling games despite claiming to be in liquidation? And how are many of these companies claiming to be making so very little profit, or in some cases negative or no profit, despite having massive sales figures and only registering as having 1 or 2 employees? For example, Midnight Works apparently had a turnover of 10 million euros in 2023, but only made a net profit of about 250,000, and in 2019 only made $1,600 at the Moldovan office. So yeah, all of these questions and more only lead me to believe that there must be something dodgy going on, possibly some sort of tax avoidance scheme or perhaps even money laundering. I can't really say for certain, but given everything that I've heard about the inner workings of certain companies, it definitely seems like there's something amiss here. But I'll leave that for you fine people to draw your own conclusions on, and feel free to share them down in the comments section below. Unfortunately though, Nintendo's processes for registering publishers appears to be lacking any kind of vetting process, as do the policies on publishing games, with the publishers themselves acting as the quality control once verified, and even when they exploit this system publishing scam games with fake screenshots and descriptions, Nintendo just stand by and let it happen. And I know that Sony and Microsoft are just as guilty, though I do believe that it's the Switch eShop that's suffering the most out of the big three. With that said though, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on all of this, on the companies I've spoken about, and on the video in general. Did you enjoy the deep dive into this rat's nest? Did it open your eyes a little to what's going on? And how do you suggest we can put a stop to it? Drop a comment down below with your thoughts and opinions, I'd love to hear them. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to say a big thanks to those who have reached out and assisted me with this research, as I couldn't have found out some of this information without you. And if there are any other employees or ex-employees from any of these companies who want to share the stories, you can always reach out to me via email or by joining the Discord linked down in the description below and dropping me a message. But for now, drop a like and a sub if you enjoy my content and want to see more. Share this video if you care about this subject matter and want to spread the word. And thanks to the patrons of the channel for their ongoing support, and to you the viewers for watching. But until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.